Sir John Thompson could be called a would-be great Canadian Prime Minister if only he had lived at least until his 50s or 60s. However, he died of a heart attack already at the early age of 49, ironically, in the Windsor Palace in Britain in December 1894. He had been born in November 1845 in Halifax, Nova Scotia. He had briefly served as Premier or Provincial Prime Minister of Nova Scotia in 1882. He graduated as a lawyer, being called to the bar in 1865. In 1877, he was elected to the Nova Scotia House of Assembly or Provincial Parliament. He became the Provincial Attorney General or Justice Minister in 1878. However, he lost the premiership after just 2 months in the 1882 general election to the Liberals. Then he accepted an appointment to the Nova Scotia Supreme Court. Sir John A. Macdonald requested him to enter federal politics in 1885, and he became Justice Minister. In that role, he was the driving force behind the Canadian Criminal Code's enactment. Finally, in December 1892, aged 47, he became the new Canadian Prime Minister. Sorry. He was the first Roman Catholic Prime Minister, and ironically had early on in life been a Methodist. Other sources claim that he was born actually in November 1844. He was instrumental in founding the Dalhousie Law School in 1883 and taught law courses as professor at Dalhousie in its early years. John Thompson's rise in government was probably because of the influence of Lady Aberdeen, the wife of Governor General Aberdeen, and Macdonald's mentoring. Thompson argued during the Louis Riel crisis in 1885 that anyone who encouraged Canadians to act against the state could not escape justice. During his 2-year prime ministership, he came very close to bringing Newfoundland into Confederation, but that would only be achieved over half a century later, in 1949. He first delivered an important speech as Prime Minister in Toronto in January 1893 on the need for tolerance and Canadian nationalism in conjunction with loyalty to the British Empire. In March 1893, he traveled to Paris, France, as one of the judges on the tribunal to settle the dispute over the seal harvest in the Bering Sea. The tribunal ruled there was no justification for the American claim that the Bering Sea was closed to all but American seal hunters. There were other matters of concern during his brief term as Prime Minister: the reduction of trade tariffs and questions over the French language education in Manitoba and in the Northwest Territories, probably different kinds of school questions there, where serious disputes existed over the role of Catholics and Protestants in administering the school system. Okay, yes. Only after Thompson's sudden death was the issue in the Northwest Territories resolved in a way that would have satisfied him. He appointed 3 justices to the Supreme Court of Canada: Sir Samuel Strong as Chief Justice, Sir Robert Sedgwick and George King. So when he died of a heart attack, he was at Windsor Castle in Britain, where Queen Victoria had just made him a member of her Privy Council. Although he was relatively young when he died, he was significantly and, in retrospect, morbidly overweight, standing 5 feet 7 inches or 1.70 meters and weighing about 225 pounds or 102 kilograms. He had always pushed himself very hard in his work and apparently had neglected physical exercise. He was the second of 2 Canadian prime ministers to die in office, the first having been Sir John A. Macdonald, and the first of 3 who did not die in Canada, the other 2 being Sir Charles Tupper and Richard Bennett.